In today's video, I remove Japan flag from ventilation. I smooth plastic fibers with acetone. I create sophisticated tools. I prepare a few guns for spraying and mix a little bit of dark wash. Hello fellow modelers! You asked why I'm not making full 3D printed models and more ships. Okay then, let's kill two birds with one stone. Prusa 3D printing manufacturer recently released a new website where users can put free models for printing. And I found this monster, crazy large printable battleship from Great War. It contains over 200 parts and is free, so everyone can download and print it. Guys developed this model for the famous online warfare game World of Warships. Cool is that you can play with the ship and sink some enemies with the mighty guns, or use the game as an assembly and painting reference. I downloaded the parts to Prusa Slicer. It is software for creating printing layers and supports. It is very straightforward to use. You don't need any special knowledge. The model is designed primarily for filament PLA printers, but I recommend printing small details from resin. You probably know that I have a resin SL1 printer. However, there is only one problem. The printing area is for small objects. But lucky me, I received Prusa MK3 printer with the needed printing material for testing, reviewing and printing this project, so it helped a lot. It is clever machine with many sensors, so you don't need to do anything, only upload 3D model from Prusa Slicer and push the start button. The printing time is many hours, so I made a time lapse of printing one hull part. And this is the result. The details are not sharp as from the resin printer, but the work is more straightforward. The printing material is not toxic, PLA is odorless and primarily is cheaper. So it is excellent for large models like this. I should rescale it. It is the largest static model I have ever made. The hull parts are so massive and there are 6 of them. These large pins are for connection. They fit well, however, if you want to assemble the model properly and then paint it, it would help if you used glue. You don't need some expensive glue for plastic models, you can use a cheap acetone instead, which makes a strong bond also. I mentioned that the kit has a lot of parts, and here are the small ones. Okay, the funnels are large, but it was possible to print them from resin, so I did. Wow, this is slightly bigger than I expected. It'll be challenging to paint it and smooth printing layers. A good and versatile tool is micro grinder. I am smoothing the seam lines and removing excess plastic with it. The seam line is easily noticeable primarily because it has a large gap. Therefore, it is good to fill it with ordinary Tamiya putty for plastic. The sanding is the most annoying but crucial step. I highly recommend wearing protective equipment like gloves and respirator. And good trick is to use water that prevents forming dust particles, and sandpaper will not clog so easily. I smoothed few lines with a sandpaper, but I switched to electric grinder. The work is easier and more comfortable. Wear protective glasses if you don't want dust particles in your eyes. The primer in spray is usually very expensive, but lucky me, I found them in local home supply store Action for $3 or so. Of course, I was skeptical about the quality, but they proved sufficient. I applied 4 layers. The main reason why to use a primer is to unify printing layers, but it will also reveal dust particles or imperfections. It is always good to see the model in primer. I am grinding the surface with a soft sandpaper. It is again quite messy work, but after this process the hull will be nicely smooth. I filled the wooden deck texture with a putty and primer. If you want to make it again nice and pronounced, you must describe it with a small saw blade. It took some time, but the result is lovely. I am making pre-diluted putty for the brush from Tamiya putty and leveling thinner. You can smooth small parts with acetone, but if you want perfect smooth result, it is good to use a resin printer or putty. Okay, the hull seems to be ready for painting. I decided on early version with a lovely white hull and yellow superstructures. It will be more interesting than navy grey. I use again the cheap primer, but this time white. How to mask a waterline properly? I created unique, sophisticated tool that helps to set the masking line. Okay, it is a little bit of foam and pencil, but it works perfectly. I somehow found the action shop quite handy for modeling hobby. This masking tape is good as the Tamiya one, but it cost only $1. I do not have a spray for the red hull, so I mix my own shade from Tamiya acrylic red and red hull shades. The red hull is too dark, therefore I added only a few drops of it. You can make the surface less uniform with orange paint. It seems that my ventilation decided that American ship is boring and better will be Japanese one. You can see how crucial is proper ventilation and respirator, otherwise all this mess you breathe. I have some leaks under the mask, but I will repaint it later with a black waterline stripe. I use for yellow sections this dark yellow. If you spray it on the white primer, then the shade is slightly brighter. So do not worry that it will be too dark. I installed World Warships for painting reference. You can rotate the ship and zoom on details. So it is perfect because there are many more models than the St. Louis. If you register the account through the link in the description, you will get exclusive starter pack including a premium account, credits and some other benefits. Anyway, I like how the ventilation is painted with a red paint. It will be a lovely detail. I am spraying the wooden deck with a grey-brown paint, but it looks too uniform. In real, each wooden plank has a slightly different shade. Therefore, try to paint some planks randomly lighter. The result is lovely and it looks more like a wooden deck. If you like clean models, then consider it as done. But for me, it is only the beginning. I wouldn't say I like overall wooden deck shade. I want it darker and more brownish. Consequently, I mix my own wash from white spirit and burn umber oil paint. Also, it makes the panel lines more visible. Okay, this wooden shade is lovely. Now all the small parts. Luckily there is included assembly manual. I use for gluing resin and plastic slow drying superglue. The easier solution is to print the railing from the black filament. You do not need to paint it afterward. How many guns do you want? All of them. Okay, there is a few of them, therefore I attach them to wooden sticks for easier manipulation and painting. I look at the documentation and realize that the windows for guns should be white. I know, a lot of details are simplified or missing, but it is not a competition model, so we can make it without improvements. I mentioned that the model has more than 200 parts. Most of them are for the chain. Of course, you can replace it with a cheap metal chainlet, but on the other hand, you must connect each link if you want the model only from printed parts. The model includes few lifeboats. It is essential to smooth printing layers again, nevertheless, it is easier than the St. Louis hull. It remains to paint few details, and we are done with basic painting, because it's time for minor weathering. It simply looks too clean, but on the other hand I like the models after some use or battle, and I cannot miss rust, dirt and heavy shading. Thus I am mixing a brown shade with a black, it will make a nice deep shading and accumulated dirt. This steamship runs on coal, so you can expect coal dust on the deck. Now I'm painting rust, stains and leaks with oil paint. It is good to moisten the surface with a white spirit first. The most horrible is uniform hull. I must do something with it. I am not used to work with such a large surface, but a sponge, acrylic paint and water can make some nice stains. And lovely accumulated seaweed or some green sea stuff. The ship was welded and riveted from many metal plates, therefore I like an idea of imitating plates with a pencil. It will make the model optically more detailed. And more rust leaks from anchor and guns. Okay, at least one improvement which is not 3D printed. The ship should have many ringing wires. It is lovely detail and make the model even more interesting and realistic. I use ringing cheap black nylon fiber. I am connecting the ringing with a nodes or superglue. It took few hours to finish it, but it's worth it. Okay, and with these details, I am done. I wanted to make this model, but a little bit smaller. I think 700 scale could be more tolerable for me. I struggled with the space meanwhile painting or sanding. I broke accidentally the main mast few times or scratched the already painted hull. But on the other hand, it is significant model in any collection. I will put it next to my large B-29 bomber. So thank you to Prusa for supporting this project and Wall of Warships for this lovely model. Now you can start the printer and try it also. Thank you for watching and see you next time.